All right, welcome to everybody around the world. Welcome to all my subscribers. So, for this video today, I want to give everybody some reassurance. Sorry, I need to get a haircut, I know, but my hair is not important. So, I want to give everybody some personal testimony of my own. I'm happy to be able to say, would like to say, I'm proud to say that I finally accomplished this. Now, I'm not trying to say that I'm perfect. I'm not. I have all my past sins that I've done and all of that. I'm still not perfect. There's a few sins that I have to combat, such as anger and things like that there. But a lot of the major sins that I used to do, that a lot of people do, I have successfully stopped doing. And not just like temporarily with an internal anticipation to go right back to doing them. I have reformed from the vast majority of nearly all the sins that I used to do. Okay? And my testimony is that you can do it. I can do it. I succeeded. I did it. It's taken me my whole lifetime. I'm approaching nearly half a century on this earth, and it's taken me a very, very long time, decades, to get to this point. I was always religious. I was always spiritual. I was a pretty good Christian from when I was a little kid all the way up until now. But like most people, I did sins, some worse than others, some bad ones. And I found it very, very hard I didn't do anything like heinous or anything like that, but nonetheless, not everybody, some people have done heinous things, and don't feel that because you've done some heinous things that you can't be forgiven and you can't reform, you can't be worthy unto God. Anybody and everybody can be worthy to God. You have to reform. Reformation is not impossible. God and Jesus expect us to stop sinning. That is the law, after all, not to sin, to be good, to be righteous, to be pure. And this is what we must do. Don't give in to dogmas from different people in churches where they say, oh, nobody can be without sin, nobody can this. Stop listening to all these word games and spin games that people do. At the end of the day, it's not about word games. Being innocent and being without guilt and all this, these are buzz terms. Now, nobody has been sinless from birth. Okay? I highly doubt anybody except for Jesus and maybe some of the greatest patriarchs of the Old Testament, but generally speaking, nobody is pure from birth. Everybody at some point in their life, even if just as a child, you've done some form of sins, okay? And probably bad sins. Everybody does. Nobody has a spotless record, okay? But the most important thing to God is not what you did do, but what you become. And everybody has the power to do sin, and everybody has the power to not sin. And it's only fools and misguided people, even if they're from churches or other religious peoples, who tell you let me re-say that, it's only misguided people or fools who tell you you cannot stop sinning. If anybody tells you that you cannot stop sinning, that it's impossible to stop sinning, then don't listen to that person anymore. They're leading you away from God. God and Jesus expect us to stop sinning. And that's why I'm saying don't fall victim to these word games that people play. Nobody's going to be spotless and pure their entire lifetime. Everybody has sins. Everybody has past sins. And everybody has the power and the ability right now to stop sinning. Every sin that you do is something you've decided to do. You've decided to do it. There's no excuse for that. No dogma and fluff will sweep that under the rug. God expects you to stop sinning and to be pure. Okay, don't get fooled by these buzzwords where people say, "Oh, but you can't be pure. You can't be innocent and without guilt. Everybody is fallen away. Everybody is this, and only God and Jesus can bless you with this automatic forgiveness." Don't listen to any of these buzzwords, because what those people are telling you is that you cannot be without sin. You cannot stop sinning. Okay, let me reword that. There's a difference between being without sin and there's a difference between being without sin and not sinning. Not sinning means you no longer do sins. You could have had a lifetime full of sin, but you stopped them and you don't do it anymore. Therefore, you're not doing sins. So at the current point onwards, you are not sinning. Follow me? You still have all your past sins on your record, that God will deal with in his own appropriate way. But you can stop sinning. So I just want to reiterate, when people tell you, oh, you can't be without sin, nobody is without, don't get fooled by buzzwords. At the end of the day, whoever's telling you that, just ask them, do we have the power to not sin? If they tell you no, then walk away from them. You have the power to not sin. It is what God commands us. Okay? And after decades of me trying, I finally did succeed. And there's no magic formula, there's no secret trick to doing it. You have to just do it. You have to actually just do it and stop doing sins. Maybe it will take helpful advice from others to help teach you how to stop them. Maybe you have to do your own internal turmoil and processing and understanding on how you can help yourself to stop doing certain sins. Try to analyze why you want to do certain sins. Analyze ways how you should recognize how those sins are wrong and reasons why you shouldn't be doing them, and then analyze ways to stop doing them, reasons to stop doing them. Repeat to yourself all the reasons why you shouldn't be doing these sins. Okay? And at the end of the day, all sin is sin. You should not be doing any sin. And people who commit sins won't be allowed into heaven. That's what Jesus and God say. It's very, very clear. And if anybody is out there telling you, whether they're leaders of a church or anybody on the street, if anybody tells you that you cannot stop sinning, then they are misguided, and don't listen to anything they say. Just walk away and don't listen to them. Okay? So my testimony is that I succeeded. If I can do it, anybody else can do it. And for the decades I tried, it was very, very hard. I didn't think it was possible. There would be times, sometimes I would go for 10 days without doing the certain sins that would afflict me, and I'd feel all good about myself. But then after that period, I would relapse and just start doing them again. Okay? Now, that's not good enough. You have to stop sinning. Means stop doing them. Okay? And if you do reform, which means stop sinning, you become a new person who doesn't sin, then you are walking in white with Christ and with God. Okay? Without blemishes. Because when you reform, you pledge yourself to God and you pledge to stop sinning, God will wipe all your guilt away from you. All the tarnishes on your garment he will wipe off, and your garment will be made dazzling and white. And it is at that point, your true baptism of reformation, when you walk with God in Christ in white. Okay? And then it's your own personal journey in battle to resist all sin. Just like how Jesus was, put against temptation from the devil, and he had to resist it all as well. It's always going to be an ongoing journey. But my personal testimony is, for decades, I found it very, very hard. I would used to, so to speak, argue with God as to why certain sins feel impossible to stop doing. Some sins feel like they're our human nature. How can we resist them? At the end of the day, I spent decades struggling. Minor moments of success. But when I did reform, which was a week or two ago, and the event that triggered it was the death of one of my pets. I wanted to be able to be somebody who could be worthy enough to ask God for a miracle to help a loved one, and be able to feel like I will be heard by God. But at the time, when I was praying for my pet not to die, I was still sinning. So I made that decision right at that time that I don't want to be a person who feels unworthy asking God for things. I want to be somebody who is, let me just say that again in case I said it wrong. I don't want to be somebody who feels unworthy and is unworthy trying to ask God for favors. I want to be somebody who is worthy and feels worthy and feels that they can ask God for favors, even if God grants it or not. And that's the moment that I made, the choice that I made to reform. And I haven't been perfect since then, don't get me wrong. But I can tell you this, and this is brutal, powerful testimony, that when I did genuinely, once and for all, make that choice to reform, it was easy for me. All the sins that afflicted me, the certain sins, it was easy for them to stop. All the certain urges to do certain sins stopped. I had spent decades thinking it was impossible, feeling it was impossible, trying to stop, stopping for days, stopping for a week, and then I would relapse. I found it so impossible. I can't fully explain why. I don't know why. But what I do know is that when I sincerely meant it and actually did it, reform, for a greater purpose, that it was easy for me. At that point, since then, certain urges to do certain sins are gone. They are not there. I have been days now without doing certain sins that used to afflict me, and it's been dead easy. It has not been difficult. Okay? And that's my testimony to everybody else. Just as it is for me, it can be for you. It could be, it was easy for me to stop. It wasn't easy before I reformed. Once I reformed, it was easy because I was sincere in my pledge to God and my own pledge to myself that this is it. I have this one life. I don't want my death or the judgment day to come and be cast away. I want to be able to spend eternity with my loved ones. I want to be able to help my loved ones while here on this earth. I want to be, loved by God and for Him to find me worthy. And those are the driving cores, the core things that helped me to genuinely reform. And when I did that, it was easy from that point. It wasn't easy up until that point. It was easy from that point. All the certain urges to do certain sins, they don't even come upon me anymore. It really does. Once I did reform and stop sinning, I could feel the sinful impulses coming. Only when you stop doing them and become devoid of them can you sense them. If you're immersed in them and you do them all the time, you've become blind and numb. You can't sense when they're coming on. Okay? But once you become devoid of it, you stop sinning. When those urges come, it does feel like spiritual warfare. It really, really does. Because a lot of times where you're compelled to sin is probably not just you doing it. It's these dark forces helping to compel you to do sins. Not all the time, but you can definitely feel it. I felt it, and I can feel it. Now, in the decades where I struggled to stop sinning, these fleeting, however you would stylize it, these inclinations to do evil, these feelings or whatever, they would come upon me, but I would be so numb to it and so used to doing the sins, I could recognize, okay, I'm starting to think about doing this. I kind of want to do this, but I know I shouldn't. But you're so numb you're so used to being in the box, you haven't looked at it from outside the box. You've been spending your whole life sinning. You're so used to it that you can't truly feel what's actually going on, the spiritual warfare of good versus evil. And then the sinful desire or impulse would nestle into your mind, spread throughout your body, instigate hormonal responses. It could be adrenaline because of anger. It could be, sexual response, the lustful urges and this and that there. Different compulsions to lie or to deceive people. Everybody has their own different types of sins and all of that there. But these things, they come in, it's almost like, I'm not saying literally, but it's almost like you could feel a spirit coming down, like just giving imagery here, like a little evil bird. And it just, like if you were a tree and it nests in your branches. And then it makes a little nest there, right? It gets cozy, it makes a little home, and then it dwells with you and becomes a part of you. That's what happens. But once you reform and you stop sinning, then you can fully, it's like you can fully grasp and sense when these things are happening. It's like having an empty room. Once you've reformed, you're like the empty room. There's no sin in it. If a sin comes to the door knocking, it's like you can perceive it's coming. You can feel it coming. And you can keep it away and keep it at bay. As soon as you feel, it's like you're looking out on the ocean, you see a boat coming over the horizon. And then you're like, nope. And the boat turns around. It's that simple. Dead easy. But before you reform, what happens is that boat comes all the way over the horizon and comes and lands on the beach. That's what happens. And then it makes itself home there. But once you do reform, it's dead easy. Because you've made that sincere pledge and you're just doing it. And you just go, nope. And that boat will turn around and go away. You just say nope. And that evil bird, so to speak, you scare that evil bird away, if you want to picture it like that, and it doesn't come down and nest. So that's my testimony. It is easy. Anybody can do it. You can all do it. Even if you're a severe Satanist, if you're a uber atheist, no matter what you've done, did, or whatever, everybody has the ability to stop. Everybody has the ability to stop. And here are some verses to back it up. Because like I said, a lot of Christians, a lot of churches will tell you, no, you can't stop sinning. It's in our nature. They are wrong. They don't know the word of God. They don't know the law of God. Here's just a little quick selection of verses. You search the New Testament for the word pure and the word purify, we get the following. So I'll just read a little selection of verses here. Right? In Philippians 1:10 it says, "For you're proving the things that differ, that ye may be pure and offenseless to a day of Christ." And then in 1 Timothy 5:22, "Be laying hands quickly on no one, nor be having fellowship with the sins of others. Be keeping thyself pure." And then 1 John 3:3, "And everyone who is having this hope on him does purify himself, even as he is pure." And then if we go over to the search for purify, and we look through some examples here, in Daniel chapter 12, verse 10, it says, "Purify themselves, yea, make themselves white, yea, refined are many. And the wicked have done wickedly, and none of the wicked understand, and those acting wisely do understand." So the principle here is about purifying yourself, making yourself white. Your garments, so to speak, making your garments white means you're no longer tarnishing them with sins because you stopped sinning, right? And then we also see the white garments elsewhere. But before I get to that, let's see. In Hebrews 9:14, "How much more shall the blood of the Christ, who through the age-during Spirit did offer himself unblemished to God, purify your conscience from dead works to serve the living God?" And also James 4:8, "Draw nigh to God, he will draw nigh to you. Cleanse your hands, you sinners, and purify hearts, you two-souled." I think the best one out of all of these, and again, this is just a simple, quick little lineup of verses looking at two keywords, pure and purify. In 1 John 3:3, I'll end again on this one. "Everyone who is having this hope on him does purify himself, even as he is pure." So anyways, folks, take care. God bless.